Hey everyone, this is going to be a quick little video walkthrough of how to get set up and get rolling with our Found Sound Beat project. We're going to go through how to create the... Sorry, my cat's rubbing against the mic stand. We're going to get set up with a new session, talk about how to import the sounds into that session, and then how to edit them so that they kind of emulate the drum sounds that we're trying to copy for our beat. So I'm going to start by creating a new session in Logic Pro. And if it's not down here in the dock, you click on the Rocket Ship Launchpad and then find it on your screen. Mine's the slightly different layout. So right now we're just going to create an empty project. We're not going to worry about tempo or input device or anything like that right now. I'm just going to create an empty project and add one audio track. So there we go. Now there are a couple ways to get our sounds into our session. So you could go to your downloads folder, find your Music Tech Found Sounds, highlight all of them, and then drag and drop them in. That's probably the quickest way to get your sounds into the project. We're going to place all files in one track. And then we go. So that is going to play them all in a row. They're all in one place. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. But that, I don't necessarily want to use every single one of these sounds. So that's one way to do it. We can go to our downloads folder, drag and drop, and then pick and choose the one we want. Or we can do this. So I'm just going to hide this track for a moment. I'm going to mute this track and then hide it. No. There it goes. And so I'm going to create a new audio track. So plus sign to create a track. Make sure we have audio selected, create. And then up here where we normally go to for our loops, if you click on the button to the right of that, that's going to bring up a media browser. And right now I've got files in my project, so those are showing up there, but yours will be empty. So if I go to all files, click on my username, and then I go to my downloads folder, I can find that file, that folder, that Music Tech Found Sounds. And I can just click on individual files and hear what they sound like. So that was a stool. So I can go through individual, files and listen to what they sound like rather than bringing them all in and deleting the ones I don't want. Either way is fine. Just depends on what your preference is in terms of workflow. So I'm going to go through this and find some sounds that I like, that I think are going to accurately and easily be translatable to a drum kit. So I'm just going to, for the moment, find myself an electronic drum kit and give you some ideas of sounds that we might be looking for. So a basic drum kit, you always want a kick drum, some kind of bass, you want a snare drum, some kind of hi-hat, and then any other sounds we want, any other kind of random percussive sounds. So if I scroll through a few of these, I can give you some different examples. So that's kind of a more acoustic sounding drum kit. Let's see what this one sounds like. Very, like it says, lo-fi, glitchy, kind of filtered sounding. So you can go for a lot of different types of sounds. But what we're looking for in our found sounds over here is something that can mimic the sound of a kick drum or a bass. So something kind of low and thuddy with a nice hard attack. We want something kind of mid-rangey and punchy for a snare. And something kind of clicky or trebly for a hi-hat. Those are the kind of three main sounds we want to focus on. And then we can also add things like claps, different cymbals, different toms. But for now, we want to make sure that we have at least a bass, a snare, and a hi-hat sound from our bank over here. So I'm going to get rid of this because we don't need it. It's just for demonstration. So I like this bassy bass. That's a nice kind of kick drum sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that into my file here, into my session. And then I'm going to go through and try and find some sounds that I think will work for my snare drum and my hi-hat. So again, we want something kind of punchy, mid-rangey for our snare. We want kind of a high tinny sort of sound for our hi-hat. So here's what I have all together. So I got my bass. That's pretty cut and dry. I don't need to do anything to that. That's going to be my snare. And I've got this here that I'm going to chop a little piece out of to use as a hi-hat. So that's going to do it for part one. We went over creating a session, finding our sound samples, either in the media browser over here or by dragging in from our downloads folder. And we've dragged our we've dragged our sounds into Logic, into a track, to start editing. So that's going to do it for part one of this series. Part two will go into how to edit these clips, how to trim them, and how to turn them into an instrument that we can use to create a beat.